Senator Gatti, you up next, and then after that will be Senator Peacock. Senator Gatti, you here for Senate Bill 129?
Yes, sir.
Okay, welcome to committee, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of this committee. Just very briefly, I'm going to allow a lot of my time to be taken up by the folks that have traveled to testify about this bill, and I'll just close at the end or answer any questions that you have. Senate Bill 129 specifically addresses the problem that we have with 18-year-olds in the foster care system when they age out. Many of those students, and we've met some last year, which caused me to research this, as those students age out in their junior year, they lose their family support, they lose the folks that are helping them find jobs, they lose their state worker in many accounts, and it's really a tragedy. I want to say about 20% end up homeless, about 25% end up incarcerated, about 21 to 22% end up struggling with severe bouts with PTSD. There was a commission that was appointed, I believe under Representative Billiot's bill in 2016, and a thorough review, which I'm sure y'all have. If you haven't had the opportunity to read the report, it's entitled 2016 HCR 94 Final Report on the Task Force of these youth aging out of foster care. And in that report, it's very telling on page 4 of the report. It just kind of outlines some of the data points that are very concerning. And it goes on throughout the report just to list several different ways that we as a legislature can address this problem. These children are very vulnerable to sex trafficking. They're very vulnerable just to their own issues that they're dealing with. Most have some type of mental health issue or something of that nature. So I would appreciate your consideration of this bill, and we have several who are here to testify on behalf of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. Afternoon, I guess, isn't it?
It's good morning somewhere. I'm not sure.
Marquita Walters, Secretary for the Department of Children and Family Services. I really appreciate Senator Gatti bringing this bill and bringing back to your attention the youth that age out of this system. When I served as the Child Welfare Director under Governor Blanco, we had a program called the Young Adult Program, YAP. You know, we have acronyms for everything. That program was ended in 2013, and roughly since 2013 to now, in the past 5 years, we've had between 900 and 1,000 youth age out of this system. We don't know where they are. We don't know what their circumstances are. We don't know how we could have helped them because that program was cut because it was state general fund money. The feds don't support children after they leave the system. If they will support, the feds raise the age to 21 and allows the state to make that option to cover children up until 21. I don't know about you, but I have 2 kids. They're in their 30s, and they still call home when they need help. And I like them to come home for Thanksgiving and for Christmas. I want them all around my tree and my table. We don't know where these 900 youth are having Thanksgiving dinner. We don't know what they're doing for Christmas. We don't know what they do every single day. There is very little that we can do under state law right now to help these youth. This bill has a fiscal note. It's worthy of the note that it has. I understand very well that we are in a fiscal crisis. We would love to serve these youth in our department if we had the money. So we are in full support as long as it is funded. Our caseloads are crippling, and we cannot absorb this body of work with the people we have without additional funds. The department stands ready, willing, and able, and wanting to serve these youth. We're going to talk later with Senator Barrow about maybe an option to at least move us in that direction, but I just wanted it to be on record that the department is very grateful to Senator Gatti to bring this back to your attention. This report that he talks about is a report that we were involved in and spent a lot of time and attention. I was in Covington Region yesterday, and I heard that 2 young girls were picked up in a laundromat that had aged out of foster care the day before. Members, we got to do better than this. We cannot continue to lose our youth They're not ready to go, and we can do better.
You know, Madam Secretary, there's several questions or comments that need to be made, but knowing my fellow colleagues at this table, we vote on policy.
Yes.
And I can tell you, we're very, very supportive, and this is kind of what we do. So you have a lot of friends sitting at this table that agree with you. And I'll start off with Senator Clater.
So have you been to finance yet on this bill?
Yes.
You did go to finance?
Oh, it has not.
You got a fiscal note, but you haven't been to finance.
That's correct.
Correct.
We received a fiscal note, I believe, yesterday.
Okay, and so everybody has in their packet a fiscal note, and it indicates that 75% of the money would be paid by the federal government for these it says 146 served in the first column, but that's 146 lives that we're talking about.
Yes, we're
Correct.
talking, the way this, we know that the percentage of kids that stayed with us back in the young adult program, so we made our calculations based on how the program used to work. And so we're using averages of what we believe kids that would stay if they had the opportunity.
Right, and as Senator Mills pointed out, we're not the money guys here, but the money speaks in favor as far as the match and the amount of money that we ultimately save in other places that these kids end up, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so at the appropriate time, I move favorable.
So noted. Senator Boudreaux?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, I too want to, first of all, express my appreciation for your leadership and your service in this area. When we talk about whether it's the foster care, adoption, we talk about those who have fallen through the cracks. And I remember a couple of years ago now when you returned and you gave some figures as to when you were here under the Blanco administration, the number of employees you had, the dollars, and how that had been cut in half upon your return some 8 years later. And but the numbers of individuals have increased. I think Senator Clater hit where I was going with the fiscal note, that I hope we can find a place in the budget to ensure that these are not lost and not left out because of, as Senator Gatti said, and applaud him for bringing this legislation forward. These are real people. These are real people, and whether it's human trafficking or any of those others, we have taken away hope. We've taken away the opportunity for them to live and to be a part of our communities. Is there anything? Let's say worst case scenario where we don't come up. I say finance cannot do this. Are there any models out there for, because we're talking about they get dropped off because of that an age. I mean, they're in the program and then all of a sudden, you cut off because because of your age, but you haven't changed anything from that day to the next. Are there any other models out there as it relates to any type of other partnerships or and look, I'll vote to put this in, but I won't have a vote on finance, and at the end of the day, we don't know where that's going to end up because you're dealing with cuts from some of your existing programs that we're talking about that are not even on the table. But are there some other models out there in the country for individuals who, because of their age have dropping off that we can get them in that you're aware of? And I know we have a lot of other bills. I don't want details, but if you give me some direction, I could look it up. But from your experience, is there something else out there that would give us a little more glimmer? I mean, that just something bright, because this is a sad topic. It really is.
Sir, it is. Thank you so much, Senator Boudreaux, and I appreciate your memory of that testimony. I feel that makes me feel good. We do have partnerships with independent living providers, and if the youth stay with us through those independent living providers, they can get a $500 a month stipend for 1 year if they're in high school and can complete high school within that year. So we do have that little bit that they can receive right now that we're doing. Some of the problem probably a lot of the problem, is that by 18, if they're still with us, they are so ready to leave because we haven't given them the best experience. We are trying desperately within our department to change that and to start at 14, looking at every single child and making sure that they have permanent connections and that no child ages out. Our goal is that we don't need this bill because there won't be anybody aging out because we would have taken care of them earlier. That's what we're doing. We're not there yet, and it's going to take us time to get there, but that's our goal.
Okay.
That's where we're working. And I could talk all day about that, but I know you have a lot of other business, so I won't.
no.
But I'll be happy to speak to you privately
Yeah.
about the other things we're doing in the department.
Thank you, and I think we need to get, more people engaged in that, if the dollars are not allocated, but I mean, again, under your leadership, you're not gonna wait for some laws to be adopted to take care of those people most in need, so thank you again for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Boudreaux, for your comments. Senator Luno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, did you buy a new fleet of automobiles this year for your employees?
Well, we got the first cut. It was a 3-year commitment, and so I guess it's this fiscal year, we've got the first 85 in the bill.
Some of your folks still driving cars with over 100,000 miles on them, breaking down on the side of the road?
Oh, yes, sir. We still got plenty of those.
Did you hire 50 or 100 new employees this year to work with these kids?
No, sir,
Why didn't you do those things?
because I didn't have any money.
And I wonder why you don't have any money. One of the things that I see when I look at this, I wonder how many members of this legislative body, not just the Senate, but the House too, would, on the day of their children's 18th birthday, would cut them off completely, penniless.
Wow.
But that's what we do with these kids,
Yes, sir.
and that's sinful.
Yes, sir.
And we need to think about this long and hard about what we're doing here and how we're handling this, because we're not handling our business right, and we have let you down, and we have let these kids down. And it's time for this to stop.
Thank you
We
so
can't
much.
cut our way out of this, can we, ma'am?
No, sir, we cannot. And I heard a rumor that somebody was talking about going back to pre-Katrina funding, and I would just like to raise my hand for DCFS. That would give me 1,400 more employees.
Wow.
And $200,000 more in the DCFS budget if we went back to pre-Katrina funding. So I'd vote for that.
What you're telling us here today is that you've actually been cut? Your funding has actually really been cut?
Oh, yes, sir.
Well, I read in the paper from people making comments saying that, that nobody's cut any money. Nothing's been cut in state government. But you actually have been cut?
Yes, sir. Our budget is not nearly what it was.
I'm being very sarcastic and
I know
tongue-in-cheek,
you are.
but I'm really, and this topic really is too serious to do this about, but I'm really mad.
I appreciate that anger very much. It is joined by the employees in DCFS that work with these kids every day. It was really hard to sit in that room yesterday and hear that we had 2 young women in a laundromat. We're only talking about 180 kids a year. If we can't find the money to take care of 185, 190 kids, then what's wrong with us as a nation and as a state?
Amen. As you can see, this committee is very passionate about your issue and in total support. Senator Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to see how I'm going to preface my comments, and I join your sentiment, Senator Luno, and I know how this committee feels. I have no doubt about anybody that serves on this committee, and I think I am the only one that serves on this committee and finance. So I will see this bill again. A couple of things I do want to make some comments about. Last week, or I think it was a week or so ago, we had the governor's prayer breakfast, and Mr. Kaufman was there. And I tell you, I think he's been one of the best prayer breakfast speakers for the governors that we've ever had. And his speech was about the children and investing in the children and the importance of investing in the children. And somehow we have forgotten that as a state, not us here collectively, but just in general, we've forgotten about the importance of taking care of the children, because these children are our children. They're our responsibility. They did not ask to come here, and so they're here, and they come to us, and they are our responsibility. And he talked about what they were doing in other countries with children and investing in the lives of children. I'm reminded of something that Melissa Flournoy said a long time ago. She said, when you look at the checkbook of any state and you see how they spend their money, you can see where their priorities are. And the state of Louisiana priorities are not in the right place right now. It's not because we don't have the right leadership. It's because of some of the priorities that have been set by some members of the legislature. We are cutting programs to seniors, and we are cutting programs to children, the people who can least defend themselves. And that is absolutely sinful and shameful. I am pro-life, and if you are pro-life does not just mean in the womb. Means beyond the womb. And when you talked about your children, my daughter's in her 30s. Well, my kids are in their 30s. She come back quite often. Needing something. I would not dare turn her away. So we must do better. And somehow we have to find this money. Because you telling me that you found 2 young ladies. Thank God y'all found them. Because they may have been part of being trafficked. Because it's about survival, right? They have to eat. They have to sleep. They need clothes, just basic necessities. So they may find themselves in situations that they don't want to be in, Senator Gatti, because they're trying to survive. And we have failed them. So when this bill comes to health and welfare, because by rule, we have to send it over because there's a note attached to it, I will be doing my very best to ensure that we get it out of committee. Right now, we are building a stack, but I make sure somehow that we get this bill through this process. We cannot afford to not find the money to take care of our children. We really cannot. And I employ everybody that's in this committee, which I know that you guys are, but talk to our other colleagues who are not here, to ensure that we do what's right by the kids who, by no fault of their own, are in this situation. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And maybe we might want to co-author a sheet, maybe pass it on. Maybe some of us want to at least put our name on it so Senate Finance can see it. Senator Early?
Can we pass a collection, do something?
And the second collection will be for the bingo fund.
We're going to need it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that's a good point, Senator Boudreaux. I'm a big advocate of foster care. In fact, I've done some legislation in the past. So, and I know you Madam Secretary, have your work cut out for you, particularly with the limited funds that you have to do your work. So I applaud you for all that you do. I really do. I got a question concerning the age limit here. Mm-hmm. Now, as I read the bill, I think you said whichever comes first, graduation from high school or age 21. I know it's a money issue usually the case, but why would you just not say at age 21? Because you mentioned about you like to see them come back, you like to see them come and enjoy Christmas and Thanksgiving and these sorts of things. And granted, I completely understand that. So why not just say at age 21 and just leave it at that?
I believe that we're trying to do this in a stepped pattern so that we can eventually raise the age to 21, but knowing the fiscal climate that we have, I mean, Senator Barrow's study resolution looks at that, just trying to get from here to there instead of going in one giant leap. Mm-hmm. That we would just take them to 19 and then maybe next year take them to 20 and the next year take them to 21, because there's a cost associated with this.
Sure. May I suggest that you determine that cost before you go to finance?
Okay.
And just let them
Yes, sir.
see the difference between
Righty.
how much it's going to cost for just to put it at 21.
Okay.
And
certainly will.
because these folks that when they graduate at 18
Mm-hmm.
from high school, let's say, they could be lost at that point. So they go through a lot. They're thrown in a situation that they're usually very much uncertainty there. So, and I think as much direction as we can give them would be the best hope for them, and that would be continuing this care to 21.
All right, we'll be happy to
Just
look
a
at that
thought,
and provide
okay,
you
and-
that.
And
Okay.
Senator Erdy, I'll get with the fiscal office and look at different methods of stair-stepping this in and see what we can do to help the most kids with the least amount of money as this first step, and let that be an option when it
Sure.
comes to finance.
And it may not be as much as we think, but then again, we just don't know until we do push the pencil, so.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, the board is clear, and we have a few people that travel from parts of the state to tell us
Thank you.
some issues. So I'd like to call upon right now, if she's in the audience, Ms. Joan Lasang, Ms. Sage Easter, and Brandy Melissa, if you would want to come up and testify. And I will tell you, you have a committee that feels exactly what you're going through. So join us, and we'd love to visit with you for a little while. And whoever wants to go first, it's your call.
Well, since I'm already here, I'll go ahead and go first. I am Joan Lasang. My husband and I are foster parents from the Lafayette region, actually from around Parks.
That's the same one, yeah.
And we have been fostering for about 10-plus years. Over the years, probably a few of the 900 to 1,000 children that age out of foster care with either homeless or nowhere to go have found their way to our table. They join us sometimes for Christmas, for Easter, for Thanksgiving, whatever. And I hear all the stories about their life after foster care. So I appreciate all of you guys and ladies for considering upping that age to 21, because I haven't had any. We foster teenage boys mainly, and I haven't had any at the age of 18 that are ready and able to go out on their own and be successful. It just takes, most of them aren't finished high school. They don't have their high set even at that age. So it just takes a little bit longer for these kids due to the circumstances of their life. Our own sons had good lives and they're fine, but the kids that we're dealing with now, it's a lot different.
Exactly.
So they go out in a world that they're not ready for due to the trauma in their lives.
Well,
So again, thank you all so much.
and thank you for your care for the kids, for the children, all of you. I will impress upon you, and I think Senator Barrow would agree, your testimony will be critical in Senate Finance. This bill will be passed here, so it's going to happen. I think your testimony will be so valuable in Senate Finance, so I just would encourage you, if you could, to tell friends and family to be there. Brandy?
Hey, it's kind of hard, but some of y'all know, but most don't. In the early 90s,
It's okay, Brandy.
I was in foster care, along with, at different times, both my older brothers. Fortunately, I turned out to now do everything I do. One of my brothers aged out and went in the military. The other one entered the criminal justice system. I literally, over the last few years, sorry, it's a rough day, told my mom before she passed away 17 weeks ago.
Brandy, we're all sorry for that loss, because we all know you so well in committee. You're in our prayers, you know that.
Told her that I was, she would always ask me about everything that goes on up here. Main thing she wanted to know about was DCFS, because of, child abuse is just something I don't take well to at all. That's why I had Senator Morrell pass the bill for Jory's dad. Jory getting decapitated because of his disability in 2011. I couldn't sit back having CP myself, knowing that happened, but when I would tell her about all the plights they were going through, it was just, like she said about the domestic violence stuff, is unconscionable. And a lot of these people in this building, not necessarily all, but others claim to be pro-life, but once the child exits the womb, it doesn't matter. And a lot of y'all know my background about that. I'm not getting into all that right now. But one of the last text messages my mom sent me, even after last year, we had a conversation after the session ended. I told her I wasn't coming back up here. She got really upset, even probably a week before she passed away. And she told me I was coming up here for something a few weeks before, and she was like, do what you do best. So y'all are never gonna hear me shut up, and until this budget is fixed to where this can happen, because like they say, the kids at 18 aren't ready to get out. They're not finished their high school stuff. They don't know anything about getting into the real world. I pretty much had to learn on my own and with therapy and other stuff after the fact how to function. And I'm still now, sorry, that my mom's gone, still learning stuff that I should have known at that age. And that was in the 90s, so you can do the math on my age now. But anyway, y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you for being here. And once again, you know we prayed for you with the loss of your mom. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Sage Easter. I am a foster parent, licensed foster parent in Northwest Louisiana. The reason I made the trip up here today is to put a face on this problem. We have a 17-year-old young man in our home that is in foster care. The reason he came into our family is because his previous foster mother came to the realization at some time in the process, he's been in care 9 years, that he was going to age out before he graduated, and he had voiced an interest in graduating. She could not finance that indefinite year or two that it was going to take for him to stay. She made DCFS aware, and they went on that search that they go on and started making their phone calls. He now lives with us, and he has a place to stay as long as he needs a place to stay. He's one of the lucky ones. I have been pegged as that family that takes these kids now because I took one. And in our region, our 10-parish region, we have been made aware, I've been made aware in just the past 4 months that we've had him, of 3 other youth, 2 that were going to age out in 2 days and had nowhere to go. 1 that aged out a couple of months ago and has 2 months left until she graduates, has had to pay her prior foster mother rent to stay in that household, to be with her 2 sisters who are also there, and can no longer afford to pay rent because she has to commit to some graduation requirements and can't work during this season. So she doesn't have anywhere to go where she doesn't have to pay to stay there. And she has 2 months left to graduate. If she moves school districts or anything at this point, she's 2 months away. It's a sad situation. I think Senator Boudreaux, you may have been the one that asked about other practices and potential systems in place. I went through and called my friends in DCFS and anybody that I knew that may be able to give me statistics, not knowing how this was going to play out. I've never been in a setting like this before, and the statistics were mentioned that are important. But foster care to 21 is obviously considered the best practice. What that looks like in other states is completing secondary education or a program leading to an equivalent credential, enrolled in an institution which provides post-secondary or vocational education, participating in a program or activity designed to promote or remove barriers to employment, employment for at least 80 hours per month, or if they're incapable of doing any of the above due to a medical condition. Those are where we're trying to get these kids. This young man that's in our house has participated in the independent living program through a Goodwill Industry track. If he remains in school, he will get a $500 a month stipend, which we're allowing him to save if he completes the program during the duration that he's at our home. So hopefully he can buy a car and be independent at some point. We can't afford that for him. But there are families that are taking that money from the kids to pay rent so they have a house to stay in, which I understand they're not getting reimbursed at that point by the state. So that's how some of the kids are staying in homes past age 18. It's unfortunate. I just want to put a face on it. This young man has a place, and I'm not going to get emotional, but just 6 months ago, he had no clue. This is the first time in his life, he's been in care almost 10 years. This is the first time in his life that he can actually start to think about what life may look like as an adult. In the past, he's had no idea. I mean, it just literally, his line of sight cut off at 18, because past that it was going to be so indefinite. So please just consider the youth. And I enjoyed Senator, is it Luno, his passion. It's like, that's my person. Because I could tell at first, once I realized you were being sarcastic. I could tell. It's wonderful to see as a foster parent, just to know that we have support here on this side of things, because it's a tedious task. We love it. We wouldn't change it for the world, but there are so many kids that would see a future for this.
Thank you all three, and really I would encourage, if anybody can make it to Senate Finance, when the time's right, Senator Barrow would sure like you at the table. So
Please let us know when.
Thank you.
we will do that. We'll get your cards, and we'll note that. We have one more person that would like to testify, Richard Ducote. Everybody else we have cards of only support, no opposition, and this will be our final testimony on this bill. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Ducote. I'm an attorney in Covington. I have been practicing law for 40 years with a practice devoted to representing abused women and kids, victims of child abuse and domestic violence. When I was in law school, I worked as a juvenile probation officer in the Jefferson Parish Juvenile Court, and my experiences with kids in the foster care system took me on this path that ended up on behalf of kids in 45 states in courtrooms. And back in the 1980s, I had the opportunity to work with the legislature to reform the foster care system, and was appointed an assistant DA in 19 parishes and tried termination of parental rights cases in 40 courts in Louisiana, and had the honor of being named an honorary member of the Louisiana Foster Care Association for life. I'm a former foster parent and an adoptive parent. So that's the perspective I bring. There is very little that competes negatively with starting life off as a child who ages out of foster care. It's being pushed off of a cliff, and the statistics bear that out. This is a wonderful bill. It has a very important purpose. However, I think there's some legal issues with it that need to be fixed. I'd be very happy to get with Senator Gatti and work out some language that I can suggest it now. I think just in terms of definition, once you turn 18, you're no longer a child. So that language needs to be fixed. I made some notes that I can provide later to Senator Gatti for a possible amendment. The other thing, too, is the reason that kids leave foster care at the age of 18 is that they are placed in foster care by juvenile courts whose jurisdiction over the child ends at age 18. So you can't remain in foster care after the age of 18 because the court that put you there no longer has jurisdiction. So what we're really talking about, and I think the bill needs to reflect this, is that it's the continuation of benefits that you were receiving prior to turning age 18 as opposed to remaining in the foster care system. I think the bill also needs to include language that none of the your rights as an adult are in any way impaired by remaining under this program, that you're still a major, you're not a child anymore, but you're just simply continuing to receive the benefits that you got otherwise. I think additionally, this needs to be based on consent by the person who turns 18 to remain in the receiving of the benefits. I think also it needs to be clear that nobody incurs any responsibility to pay these benefits back, neither the foster parents nor the former foster child. I think there also needs to be language that the department needs to inform both foster parents and the foster child on a regular basis in writing leading up to the 18th birthday that this is a benefit that's available. Because if you don't know about it and you don't sign up for it, we continue to have the same problem. So those would be my suggestions. I'd be happy to put that all in writing and send it to Senator Gatti.
We would welcome that, and we welcome your testimony, and thank you for your work you've done, and thank you for your patience of waiting to testify.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
truly
all of you.
appreciate it. I think Senator Claytor had either question or comment, so let's.
Yeah, one question on the not paid back that you talked about. As
Yes,
far
sir.
as, is that an actual concern that there's some sort of clawback on that?
Well, I think it just needs to be clear, because when you're 18 and you're not getting any of these services under the authority of a court-ordered placement as you were as a child, I think that potential is out there, and I think the law should just be clear that that.
Okay, and then on the testimony that we heard, it happens in other jurisdictions, so we don't have to dream this up all on our own. We have some models to look at, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. I would,
Thank
the
you.
folks that appeared today and those that maybe didn't speak, could the foster parents that are here today stand up, please?
We'd like to thank you. Thank you, Senator Claytor. Senator Gatti, would you like to add anything? Because we have a motion to move favorable. Is there anything else?
I
you'd
have a
like to-
45-minute closing. I'm joking. I wouldn't. I just want to thank y'all for your support of this, and Mr. Cody for coming out, and the witnesses. You know, children are our hope, our destiny, our future. You know, this is something we're getting wrong right now, and it's a big deal, and we need to address it. We need to give the foster parents the comfort they need, and I know that this committee loves these children as much as anyone else in the room. So thank you for your leadership, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. And before we finalize this, Mr. Richard Ducote testified, Joan Lassang, Sage Easton, Brandy Melissa, Laurie Albert, Susan East Nelson, Brittany Mock, Jonathan Cola, all in support. And we heard the testimony of Secretary Walters, and Christy Tate is here for informational purposes. We have a motion by Senator Claytor to move Senate Bill 129 favorably. Is there any opposition? Seeing no opposition, it is reported favorable, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And you have the whole committee as co-authors with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.